Welcome to the Mystical Playground, a space where curiosity, intuition, and magic come together. This podcast explores healing, shamanism, the Akashic Records, tarot, astrology, and many other mystical paths that invite us to remember who we truly are. Each episode offers grounded conversations with soulful insights, and there's an opportunity for playful exploration of the unseen. There's no dogma, just discovery. If you're curious about the mysteries that are available for us in our everyday life, and you're ready to explore your inner world, you're in the right place. Come play in the magic. Before we move on, I want to speak to you for a moment. If you've been feeling stirred up inside, maybe you're feeling tender, or you are ready for change, I see you. Sometimes we carry patterns that we can't quite name, emotions that feel older than this moment, or beliefs that don't feel like they're ours anymore. And you don't have to untangle all of this alone. I offer spiritual response therapy sessions, which is a gentle subconscious clearing process that allows me to work with your higher self to lovingly release what is weighing you down. There's no force, no pressure, just soft, intentional clearing. If you feel that nudge inside your chest right now and you are receiving that quiet, maybe this is for me, you can find me at www.thebloominglotushealing.com. That's www.thebloominglotushealing.com. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. So I want to take this moment to really introduce you to the journey of this podcast. This is the first episode that you are going to get to listen where I bring Maurice Sinclair. He is a psychic medium, shamanic practitioner, and Reiki master who I've been collaborating with for quite some time. If you've been following me on YouTube and on Instagram in the past, you know that I've been collaborating with him, and most likely you've been coming to our mediumship circles. And if you have, then I want to thank you for participating and supporting the work that we've been weaving together. Now, in this first episode, I wanted to just really feel into the stream of consciousness. I didn't really set a specific thing or theme to talk about. I just wanted to just sit down and talk with Maurice. And I thought it was really interesting because as we were going through the stream of consciousness, I realized that we were talking about this concept of the spiritual experience, whether it is a contained experience or a structured experience versus a non-structured experience. And we were sort of going back and forth with a conversation in regards to which is the correct one, where do we want to exist, and what's the best place to be. So I kind of wanted to just invite you to listen to this episode with an open heart, an open mind, and really go within yourself to really think about where are you existing at this moment and what resonates with you. At the end of the day, what's important is that you receive the medicine that is meant for you at this moment. You can always come back to this podcast later on and most likely receive even more activations when you re-listen to it. So I want to invite you to just really open your heart and even set the intention to connect with your higher self. And as you are listening to this, really feel into your body. Where does it feel activating? Where does it feel like it's activating within yourself? And before we enter into the episode, I also wanted to really give you a little bit of the intention behind this podcast, since this is the first episode and the first ever podcast that I am doing by myself outside of doing the YouTube lives and recording videos on YouTube. This is a really special space. And the reason why is because I wanted this to reflect my own experience in my spiritual journey. That's the reason behind the name of the podcast. I want this to feel like a sandbox where we can explore different themes, different conversations from a place of curiosity, a place of wonder, a place of openness, and allow ourselves to even be in places that feel uncomfortable and see where can we expand ourselves towards. So I want to thank you. If you feel like this is something that resonates with you, you are my people. So I want to thank you for being here. I really hope that you make sure that you follow the podcast, that you subscribe, and that you share with those that you love if you feel like this is valuable to you. There are a lot of other episodes that are coming forth that are going to be really great, and I really am looking forward to what's going to unfold. I already have an idea of a lot of the things that I want to talk about, and I think that we're going to have such a fun time and such a great opportunity to connect with ourselves and connect with each other and build this community that that feels authentic and feels aligned with what is true in our hearts. So thank you again, and without any further ado, let's get started with the episode. Yeah, so we've been talking about, I've been talking to you about making a podcast for a while, and it's been like how long, Maria? I feel like it's been so many months of in the making, and then finally here we are, just getting together and allowing ourselves to just be in the stream of consciousness. And I was thinking about I think the reason why I was having a hard time figuring out what to do with a podcast is because I thought that I had to make it something specific or give it like a specific flavor, or because you're thinking about a name, you're thinking about all of these things, like how do you package this thing? And the more and more I thought about it, I was like, I really want to make this as the experience that has been for me. When I reflect back on my journey, my journey wasn't linear, it wasn't packaged, it's been messy, and I've gotten to this point by allowing myself to explore and be curious. And so I thought, well, why not make it into a sandbox? So here we are. And I guess I just kind of wanted to invite you in because you've been a big part of the journey for me for the past few years. And I'm so grateful, like I mentioned earlier in the opening of the container. I mean, we met in 2022, and I remember the first time I heard your voice. We were in a meeting at for Evolve Me, which I don't even know if they're still around, but and I could just like even the tone of your voice just told me that you were like there was like some like a sense of alignment, and also the way that you express yourself about how you practice as a practitioner, how you practice your values and how you see the world. I just felt so aligned. And then I'm so grateful that now we've been collaborating for, I think it's been a year, right? Over a year
I
with
think
the
it's been like,
mediumship.
oh yeah,
Two,
with the mediumship circle. Yeah, I was
with
gonna
the
say
me-
collaborating in general, it's been like two
two
years or something,
years.
right?
Yeah, we've been collaborating for 2 years. And then you came to my, you've come to my YouTube channel. We've done we've had some fun doing live stuff. And then it's just interesting to me. I was thinking about it, how like just connecting with you in that circle, I wouldn't have connected to you, and I guess that it just evolved me happened for a reason, right?
Definitely.
And it brought the people together that it was meant to bring together. And then just kind of like following that understanding, like when you feel that connection with somebody, and then just kind of like following that and allowing yourself to just open your heart and open your mind into like maybe collaborating with them. And then now, like, I never thought that we would be here at this moment where we've had like such a like amazing base of collaboration for this long, and it's been so beautiful. And so I just kind of want to take a moment just to express gratitude. And I know I've done this before, but I feel like it's not enough. Like I'm so grateful, because again, you're part of that journey for me, and a lot, like I've gotten even better at my practice because of that collaboration with you,
Mm.
and that encouragement that you've given me in particular, and also witnessing you in holding the circles too, which I think that it's so beautiful to witness. And then it also like it's also interesting to see just that divine masculine, that container that, you know, a lot of people think masculine has to be like very harsh or very like loud, and you have like this very just beautiful way of holding space where people feel safe enough to actually connect to their gifts, which, you know, for that you have to be so relaxed and your nervous system has to be in a good place, and you're able to do that in such a short period of time in the circles. So
Thank
so
you.
thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's it's to hear what I'm doing described in other people's words is always moving to me because I'm just it's just coming from the inside, and I don't really, you know, I know what I'm trying to do. I know what I'm trying to help people feel and what I want people to feel when they come into my circles, for example. But it's always like, wow, okay, I guess it's working.
It is.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I guess what I wanted to invite is just, I guess, a little bit of a conversation in regards to your own journey, because I think that when I think about this podcast and what I'm planning to really explore, is just how do you feel your journey has been, you know, based on the theme, right, that we have here, which is just the playground, just sort of like this playground. Like, do you feel like that's been the case for you as well in regards to your journey, um, and being where you are now? Um, you know,
Mm,
what was your journey like? Do you feel like you came from a more structured place and then you kind of opened up? Because everybody's different, right? Some people come from very like structured places and then they just kind of break away from that, and then
mhm.
they move into exploration. Some people go into exploration and then they find something and they just kind of like go into a structure. So like what is it for you, like when it comes down to just being in a practitioner? And I want to be very clear about practitioner, for those who are listening. To me, a practitioner is anybody. You don't have to be somebody who calls yourself a, you know, a Reiki practitioner or a shamanic practitioner. Like, you could be somebody who's just exploring. That in itself is a practice. So to me, just a practitioner is anybody. So, but anyway, I'll open that up for you and then tell me what you think.
So I think in my heart, I can't stand boxes and compartmentalization. I think in my heart, I can't. So I mean, so my journey, I would have started from a very personal place, is trying to, like I've told the story before, but like healing myself basically. And right off the bat, I think I was like, I'll do it myself. You know, so I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. You know, even in the physical aspect of healing myself, I was like, I'll figure it out. And then when I kind of stumbled into the spiritual aspect, for me, it was shamanic practice. Once again, I was like, I will do it myself. I'll find out. I'll read things. I will play around. I will trial and error, and I'll just see what happens. And I, I think I've kind of always approached it like that. But then there have been times, for example, because like after that, I was like, okay, I discovered Reiki, and I was like, once again, I don't need anybody. I'm doing myself. And so I started reading books, and I was reading actually this very specific book. I must still have it around here somewhere, but this very specific book that was basically teaching you how to um, activate yourself, like kind of giving you all the Reiki stuff. And I think I was attracted to that like concept because that's how I always was. I was like, you don't need anybody. Like it's all there. But I will say, so I started reading that book. I never really read through the whole thing because it wasn't really that reader friendly. Her style of
Yeah.
writing, I was like, I'm not really a big fan. But so I got what I thought I needed from it. I started doing stuff, drawing the symbols and all that. And I hit a place where I felt like I was like, well, let me go get some structure. Let me go see if I can find somebody who can teach me this thing. Because what the big thing that I wanted to figure out was the one thing was that because I probably would have found this out if I finished the book, but at the time I was like, it feels like it's coming from me. Like I'm pulling from my own reserves when I'm kind of trying to
Mm,
put like, transfer energy. I didn't really get the concept that it kind of comes from the outside. You're a host. You're not the source of the healing. And that was the biggest thing I think I learned from going through the Reiki 1, 2, 3 and all that, getting the certificates and all that. It was never really about the piece of paper or the certificates, or I'm getting this, not accolade, but this award that I can show people. It wasn't really about that for me at the beginning anyway. It was really just, I want to make sure I'm absorbing all of this modality that I can from someone who's done it already. And that made me kind of, I had to go through the thing of like pretending to not know things, like, this is how you draw is that how you, oh, okay.
that's so funny.
I've been drawing it for months before that. And I
Right.
was like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. and,
That's
and,
funny.
so there was that, and then after that, I kind of was like, all right, I finished it because I was like, I started this thing and I'm going to finish it. But even then, even getting like the master, getting a Reiki master certificate or whatever, it was empty. It was empty for me. I just was doing it so I could say I did the thing. Later on, I thought to myself, well, okay, there's a like a brief period of time where I was like, well, it's probably important for some people that they can see that there are credentials that they'll take me seriously. And there was like a brief point in time over the course of my journey where I was like, that became like a thing. But other than that, I was like, yeah. And then I fell away pretty swiftly. And yes, since then I kind of been doing it on my own. The only other thing that I've really done, well, I've done I started a shamanic practice, like online class. I was like, okay, all right, I don't need, and I kind of dropped it. And then what I did do is, I learned from a teacher, uh, mediumship. Like I wanted to once again get that concept down. I joined the class because I thought that I needed like help with psychic development. Like I wanted to practice with other people. That was the thing. So I literally was like psychic circle. I didn't know what to type. And what popped up was that a bunch of things popped up, but what popped up in the time frame that I had based off of work was mediumship. And I didn't know what it was, but it came up with psychic. So I was like, this is probably it. So, and then I quickly found out what mediumship was. I quickly found out that I can do it right away. And I think I was doing that not so much to learn a whole lot from the teacher, because I did learn some things, but really I just wanted to practice, and I wanted to just do what's happening through me with other people and practice with people that I don't know and test it out that way. I did learn things, I did pick up on things, but it wasn't the main. Most of what I've gotten from mediumship circles, like participating in other people's mediumship circles, is watching other people and watching myself back the recordings. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get a whole lot from that specific teacher. As a matter of fact, like I stopped going because I was like, this has hit a wall. Like, and some of her concepts and beliefs were just fundamentally different from mine, and I just was like, I can't resonate with this. She was very structured, and very focused on structure. And while there's a place for that, even after kind of deciding that that wasn't really for me, I participated a couple more times because I was like, you know what, let me put myself in a box. Let me just like, it's like a test. It's like like a standardized test. Let me sit, and I have exactly 10 minutes to do this and connect in this way. And I would still freestyle. I'll still do it my way. And she tried to like, hey, and then I'd always be like, but it resonated, right? And she had to be like, okay, so she always had to be like, okay, all right, yeah, you're right. Like you should, because she'd feel like she had to give feedback, which is, she's trying to be a good teacher. She wasn't trying to necessarily criticize, but she feels like every time someone goes, she has to give some feedback. So she'd always try to pick a thing out. And I'd always be like, well, but it worked, right? And she'd be like, Yeah, I did. You can never really be like, you can't do it like that because this and the third. And but yeah, there are just some things fundamentally that I didn't disagree with. And I've tried other circles, and I always kind of hit that same place of like, this is too, you're trying too hard to smash me into a box. And
Mhm.
I can't do that. I don't work like that. And I don't want other people to work like that. I think that's one of the reasons why I like, I don't know, the circles are good because the thing is like, you come here, you practice how you want to practice. You practice your own way. I'm not, I'll give you some pointers if you want them, some basic framework, but like draw outside the lines because that's not the point. You're going to do things in a different way than I do. You're going to see things in a different way than I do. And that's what needs to be nurtured. Everyone is different, just like everyone has a different fingerprint. So, um, yeah, I've kind of done a little bit of both. No, a little bit of structure, a lot bit of no structure, kind of freestyling, figuring out my own way. Uh, and I encourage other people to do the same. I know some things work differently for other people. Some people work better with like a hard structure. But even when I'm teaching, even one on one, when I'm doing like mentorship, it's not structured. There's a basic, very basic structure. I might start with a meditation and have you connect and do it. But like even that will change over time. So there's some people who come and I'm like, you don't even need a meditation. Just go. And or I'll ask them like, do you even want a meditation? And be like, no. So like the structure is, there is no structure. So yeah, I think from what I hear anyway, that's what differentiates me from other people. I don't have a 6 week course that you go through and check the boxes. Like I don't work like that. It doesn't work for me. I don't learn like that myself, and I don't. And as a result, I don't teach like that.
I think it's beautiful that you're mentioning that because sort of like, how they say that people learn in different, like everybody has their own learning style.
Mm,
And I think that we can apply that in this spiritual path is that the learning style is going to be depending on the person, right? And so leaning into your own learning style is important. So, for example, if you're, and I thought that was kind of interesting. You mentioned how you intuitively felt the need to go seek that structure when you felt like that structure was needed, and
mm,
then you went and you got what you needed in that structure, and then once you were done, then you just went back to being creative in the way that you're meant to be with your practice. And then
mm,
so I think it's interesting that this applies right to our spiritual path, and recognizing that maybe something is not working out for us, right? And then we're trying to push ourselves to do that because that's what we're being told that we're supposed to do. And
mm,
then we end up like maybe like falling off the wagon, or maybe feeling discouraged or whatever that is, because we apparently are not following the way that the teacher or whoever is guiding us is showing us the way that is showing us to move forward with. And so I think it's important to remember that when we're in this journey, right, that we want to embrace that uniqueness of who we are, and then also allow ourselves to say no to the things that are not aligned at that moment. Because the interesting thing is, like, you were first aligned with reading the book because that you needed that playfulness first,
mm,
right, to like try out and then kind of like feel it in yourself and say, you know what, yeah, this I know that I want to do this like this, but I think I need a little bit of extra support so I can kind of like clean it up a little bit. That's really what it was, because you already were connecting to it, right? Especially with the Reiki you were mentioning at the beginning.
mm,
And then once you got your structure, I mean, you do things your own way. I mean, I've been in sessions with you, so I know that you're practicing, and but you're basically like blending in so many things when you're doing your sessions. Like, you don't necessarily like, and that's how I feel personally when I've sat with you, is
mm,
that you don't necessarily like put anything in a box, right? Like, you're kind of like just sitting there and then allowing yourself to be the vessel and just receive, and then whatever it is that you're guided from within to do, then that's what you do. And
yeah,
then it's just so that's powerful medicine, right? But yeah, I think it's so beautiful to kind of give ourselves permission to explore, and if something doesn't work out, then just It's okay. It's okay to say, you know what, this didn't work for me, and I think I'm gonna try it this way. Or maybe it does work for you, but maybe you need a different teacher, or you
Right.
need to do it differently, right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah,
It's
I
always something
think
to consider.
yeah, something to consider too, because like you said, you were talking about the structure part.
Hmm.
Sometimes having too much of that structure, and I think for me, I can relate to that in the in a different setting. When so I went to school for photography, and I was obviously in a school. You're in a very big structure, and then you have teachers, different teachers that like different things in a different way. And you have to present your work, your artwork, your photography to them in the way that they require.
Hmm.
And of course, the teachers are doing, like you said, they're trying to be good teachers. They're trying to give you the structure and the feedback. So because they want you to be successful. Because I'm pretty sure that as a teacher, you want the success. So that's why you create those containers in the way that you do, so that your students do their best, right? I'm pretty sure that all teachers feel pride when they're creating these containers, and when they see their students evolve and learn and present themselves even better than what they were taught, right? Or like see them flourish in that. But one thing that I struggle with, Maurice, was the fact that when I graduated from school, I couldn't find my voice as a photographer because I was so ingrained in the structure part. And as a Capricorn myself,
Hmm.
we tend to love structure, but to the point where it can be to your detriment, because then you're kind of you don't find your voice. And I wonder, right, like how much of that also applies to the spiritual path, where if you're put in the structures too for too long, how long, how much does that affect your ability to really explore and give yourself permission to play or to color outside the boxes, like you say, right? How much does that, how much structure is too much structure
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
where it can hinder your ability to express your own natural medicine? Because I believe that everybody has their own medicine, their own energy signature, like you were mentioning, right?
Hmm.
I believe the same. Like everybody has their own energy signature, and I guess we're meant to naturally align ourselves to that without necessarily having somebody tell us how to do that, right? Like I think that all of these different structures that we can visit, right? They help us kind of like find more about ourselves. And then in that reflection, we can look back. Then our job is to go back and kind of like see, okay, is where do I exist in this structure? Like, where is it that I feel lit up in this structure? And like when I'm out of this structure, how can I harness from this structure? How can I harness from there the what lights me up from that, and then apply it in a way that's unique to me, right? And so, yeah. So anyway, I just think I think it's interesting that we're talking about this, the whole structure thing, and I think when we're starting our journey, right, it's just so confusing. There's so much out
Yeah.
there. It can be
Yeah.
overwhelming.
It can. It can. That's why it's good to like pick something or something, pick a focus, because from there you understand what you want. It's like the idea of like learning classical music to be able to play jazz.
Oh
Do
yes,
you know what I mean? It's like learning
right.
the structure so you can kind of like freestyle and like play in between the notes and the beats. It's like that. Like in order to know what you want, sometimes you have to click into something or emulate something, and there's nothing wrong with that, because like at the end of the day, even me, like Reiki is it's a practice. It's a specific practice done a specific way. So even if I was reading a book about the doing it yourself, Reiki itself is still a practice. And that led me to kind of understanding, for example, how energy moves through the body. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I kind of needed that to be like, oh, okay. All right, so these are the areas of the body. This is how it moves through the body, or this is at least how this person is describing it. I'm going to understand it in a different way eventually, but okay, that gives me some structure, and from that place, it's like you say, you find what's you, what works for you, and what you resonate with, in the structures that exist. It's interesting because I find myself actively not looking at other practitioners. Like I find myself because some people are like, oh, do you know this person's big name or this, and I'm no, I don't, because I feel like it has to come from inside. And there are times where I've watched other people work and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like this is their way of doing it. Like, oh, and I can appreciate it like that. But there's never a part of me that's like, I'm going to emulate that. Like, I'm going to do that. As a matter of fact, I think I'm actively always like, no, I'm going to do it my way. I'm always like, you do it that way. That's cool. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just, and because I think for me, it's not like I'm doing it in any particular way. I'm doing it how it is coming through me. And if it's anything but that, it is hijacked. Like if
Yes.
I'm trying to do anything, if I'm trying to look a certain way or speak a certain way or whatever, if I'm trying, then you've already lost the power. You've already lost the magic. Like it has to be just the way it comes through you. And I find that probably that most, well, at least a lot of the big name people that have been around for a while are doing just that, and they're just doing it how it happens for them. Not everybody, I'm sure, but for at least the genuine ones, that
Yeah.
they're doing just that. They're doing it naturally, what comes naturally for them, and how they speak, and through this lens of their life experiences, and that's what people are drawn to. I think the realness, the genuineness.
Yeah, being genuine to yourself. And I think that the only way that you can get there is again by allowing yourself to be playful and explore and be curious. Like because there's gonna be moments where you're like, for example, I'm starting a new journey where I'm exploring different avenues of healing through for my sacral
Mm,
through BDSM.
mm,
And so it's like the interesting thing about that though is that I don't know where I exist there. Like I just
mm,
don't know. So I'm just kind of like in this really interesting space of okay, well, I'm going just to try this and see if this works for me. And then I know, oh, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't resonate. And then I already know that. But the only way that I can say yes or no to something is by allowing myself to be playful and being open to do it. Unless you
mm,
already know, like sometimes you already just know that it's not for you,
mm,
because you don't resonate with it. Like your body's already saying no.
mm,
Especially for me as a generator, because my human design, I'm a generator. I'm meant to connect with my sacral and also like that gut feeling. And so
yeah.
it's like if my gut feeling tells me like this is not for me, then I pay attention to that. I try to practice that as much as possible. But sometimes I don't know. It's kind of like ambiguous. So it's like, okay,
It's
well, let me
tricky.
just
Yeah.
go in there and like
Mm,
find out and then go from there. And it's like, oh, this is definitely for me. Or this
mm,
is not for me. And so it's like I think the same thing, like that's the same approach that I personally have been practicing in all of my journey, like from
mm,
the beginning. Like I just tried whatever worked for me. And then
mm,
also I listened too, because that's another thing. We are guided. We are very divinely guided. We have this very subtle voice that tells us, hey, that not necessarily like tells you like you got to do this, but more so as invitation for you to try this or invitation for you to do this. And then are you listening to that call? And then when you listen to that call, then things paths start opening up for you. And then
mm,
you're able to again align yourself with what feels authentic to you, right?
right.
Because again, the authenticity is going to come from giving yourself permission to exist there. And I think what happens for a lot of times is that there's the programming, right, that sometimes we are carrying within
Mm,
ourselves from past experiences, from past lives, from upbringing. I mean, we are so heavily programmed from day one, right? When we come into this planet, like we're just programmed by our parents, we're programmed by our ancestry, we're programmed by our what society, and then sometimes it can be very hard to find your voice among all of those programs that are just existing within you, you
oh
know?
yeah.
And so it's
Mm,
like I think that when we give ourselves permission to listen to that subtle invitation, and then even if it feels a little uncomfortable, because it could potentially feel a little uncomfortable for
Mm-hmm.
us to listen to that. Maybe right now somebody who's listening, they're being guided to just stop going to a specific group. Maybe you've been going to a specific spiritual group or something, and you're not feeling aligned anymore, but you're kind of feeling afraid of leaving that community for XYZ, because of course there's the attachment aspect and all that. And that's happened to me, by the way. I
Me
used to
too.
go to
Yeah.
a church, and then I all of a sudden realized that I wasn't aligned anymore. And I had this little subtle voice just telling me, time to leave, time to leave. And I had to go through that process of just, you know, listening to that, well, like listening to it, and then also feeling that resistance and feeling that fear of stepping out of that comfort zone, because I was comfortable right inside this community. It felt safe, and
Mm-hmm.
then stepping out felt unsafe, and it wasn't unsafe. It was just that programming, right, that it was given to me, and because it was a very like structured community where also
Mm-hmm.
you were kind of given programming that was related to being unsafe outside of the church, right? Like because that happens sometimes, that
Yeah.
programming is included in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
like listening to that voice and saying yes to that voice was very hard. But then eventually when I did, like just things started opening up, and then I was able to just I felt personally like that freedom and that excitement of like just exploring, right? Like yes, I did feel the fear at first, and then after that was the excitement of like, oh wow, like I get to try new things. And
Mm.
so that was really fun for me. But yeah, so what are your thoughts about that, for what I mentioned?
So I think it is like a community in the spiritual space. It is like a sacred thing. So when you feel not necessarily unsafe, but when you feel it, when you're not necessarily resonant with a group or a practice or anything, it's important to listen to that and just to move on. I've been in that same position. I feel like multiple times. Actually, now that you talk about it, like even with church, yeah. But I was young. I was maybe I don't know. I must have been like eight or something, eight or 7 or 8 or something, maybe even 9. Yeah, around there. And I remember just because I would go to church with my great grandmother because that's who would take me. She'd be watching me, and usually my dad wasn't a church person. My mother was not a church person. They were separate, but even at the different households, they were not religious even a little bit. My great grandmother was, and she raised me for a lot of my life. And I would go with her, and I didn't really understand the meaning of it even as a child. But as I got older, I started to understand what was happening. And I remember, and this is not me like necessarily bashing the church. It's just it was my personal experience in that specific church. I I remember looking around. We were outside. I think it was after church. I was outside in the parking lot, just like looking around. And not that I had any awareness of being able to see non-physical whatever, but like now looking back, I realized what was happening. I was looking around, I could see the deceit and the contradiction
Mm.
in people's faces and in their words and how they were talking and the way that they were talking. And something as a child, I was like, so that's not real. Like, so all the stuff and all the act, the theatrics that I just saw in the church aren't real. You were just pretending. You're playing. And this all happening inwards, And I
Yeah,
remember being like, I can't come back here.
yeah,
Like I'm not
yeah.
coming back here. And I remember how disappointed my great grandmother was, and I was like, I couldn't really explain to her, but I just was like, this doesn't, I didn't even use those words, but what I knew was it didn't feel right to me anymore. So I stopped.
Mm.
And I'm glad I did, but it's just interesting looking back as an adult now and kind of assessing what was really happening, because that's what happened. I looked around and I was like, there's hypocrisy everywhere. These people aren't. holy. Or maybe there's some, definitely, but like these people aren't holy. These people aren't godly. These people aren't genuine. They're just doing this to save themselves. They're trying
Mm.
desperately to save themselves from whatever it is that they're running from. Um, and of course, there have been several circles that I had to be like, nah, I gotta go. You know, spiritual groups, and even just not even necessarily official groups, but like being in being partnered with people. How do I say, like, for example, there was I mean, I guess you could call it a circle, I was a part of. We weren't calling it that, but we're just with like three mediums getting together, like kind of playing around and doing stuff. And it kind of got to a place where it's like, this isn't resonant with me anymore. This isn't actually speaking to me. And this isn't what I want to be doing. And I think it's just important to listen to that, because it is equally as easy to be like, I'm going to keep doing this because these people, I've come up with them. They're providing a space for me. Uh, I'll be alone if I don't, and I think it's important to not be afraid to be alone, because it's in that alone space that you'll find the people that are for you. It's I think it's important to just not be afraid to just go off on your own, do your own thing, and just have faith that, you know, through whatever you're doing, you will find your people. I think I found most of my people. Um, I think like besides you, because I actually we were in a group together. But like most people, I think I find just doing my work.
Mm.
Just kind of doing this, showing up for my work. My partner, my girlfriend, my fiance, we found each other just by I was just doing my work. That someone suggested her to me. And you know what I mean. Like you find your people, whether it's in the scope of spiritual practice, friendship, family, life partner. Like you'll find your people if you just keep, and that goes for, and I'm not just saying you got to do spiritual work to find these people. Following whatever it is that you feel guided to do, whatever it is, that is through that you will find your people. Like being honest and genuine with yourself. If being honest and genuine with yourself means you're going to be an electrician or you're going to be a baseball player, that's where you'll find your people. It might be directly through your practice, whatever it is, spiritual or not. It might be indirectly. It might be happenstance. It might be someone that you meet as a result of meeting someone else, as a result of meeting someone else. But I think, I don't know, it's just, you should always just follow through with what feels right to you, because you'll never feel alone if you do that. Even if well, I shouldn't say that. Even if you do feel alone, it'll be brief. You will find your people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, congrats on your fiance.
Yeah.
That I'm just
Thank you.
finding this out. I love it.
And
I
I
love that it gets
know.
to be in the podcast. Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, this is on the podcast. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got
I
engaged
love
on
it.
um December 24th. I'm trying to think of how you call that.
Oh,
Christmas Eve.
yeah, congrats. I'm so, so
Yeah.
happy for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and then even the story of how you, because I remember witnessing your journey, because I got to witness the journey of you shifting the energy to be closer with her. And so I thought that was beautiful. So that's so beautiful to kind of maybe we can do a podcast on that too. Like I think that would be really good to talk about because that's definitely a journey of its own. But yeah, I'll thank you for sharing that. And yeah, and then going back to what you were saying in regards to being alone and like just being in that space and yeah, it can be lonely sometimes. It can feel lonely. And I think we don't talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
Like we always want to talk about like, oh, the bliss and the joy and the bliss and all this stuff. But there's also the shadow aspect of when we are exploring. That exploration, it can sometimes feel a little jarring because we don't get to do this with people because we're when we're walking away from a community, then obviously we're not resonant with them, and then we're kind of just resonating with ourselves, right? We're just sort of going into that resonance with ourselves and retuning. I feel like it's almost like retuning ourselves, right, to our own resonance.
Mm.
And then from there is that how we can like expand that out so that we can attract the people who are meant to be aligned with our resonance. But in order for that to happen, we have to we have to kind of like separate from the other things that are not aligned. Almost like I feel like it's just like I see it as energy, right? It's just like the energy that you're surrounded by. Especially, I mean, I've been really big on human design, and one of the things that I've been learning is, and I'm talking for myself. I have like you have like all these channels, right, of energy that are in your energy field. And according to human design, there's like these all these they're numbered, and they represent different things, and they connect to different aspects. And then when you're interacting with other people, your channels come together and they interact. And depending on some channels are filled with energy, meaning that you have like this definition that keeps you kind of like very, you're like it cannot be influenced by outside energy. But then there's also those open channels, and all of us have some open channel. And then when we interact with the world, whether it is a community, which that in itself is it's a collective energy that we're interacting with,
Mm.
and or we're interacting with people, we in some shape or form are being informed energetically by that community, by or that person, right? And so like for me in particular, I have like certain channels, like I have to be very mindful that I gotta, like for me that's the reason why I do so well with going into meditation retreats, because it'll, especially with the ones that you're silent, you're not interacting with anybody,
Mm-hmm.
because it resets me back to my energy, to my field.
Yes.
Because when we're interacting with other people, we're exchanging, then you sort of forget who you are in a way. I don't know if this
Yeah,
has
it's
happened
true.
to you or not, but like for me, it happens,
Oh yeah.
and I have to be very mindful of that, and then just go back and reset. So that time alone is actually a blessing, because it
Mm-hmm.
gives you the opportunity to again retune yourself, recalibrate yourself to your energy, so that you have more of that defined understanding of who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
then be able to magnetize that out to be so that those who resonate with that can come to you. Because
Definitely.
if you think about it, if you're resonating with the energy of the specific group of people, and you're sort of like aligning yourself with that, then that's what you keep attracting,
Mhm.
because that's what you're resonate, like that's what sort of like that's the music that you're playing,
Right.
like the music that your energy is playing. So you're gonna attract the music that aligns with that. But then when you go back to yourself, and you kind of like go and ground into your energy, then the tone and the energy will change. And then again, those who listen to that, obviously, I mean, some people might listen to it in their in with their claries, but in general, like when I say listen, I say more in tune, tuning into your energy. Then
Mhm.
they'll come to you, and then sort of like what happened with you and your now fiance. It's like you were sort of like in this space, you were aligning with yourself, you were in your energy, and then you basically attracted that beautiful connection that keeps on giving you, and it's meant to be in your path for XYZ reasons at the soul level. We I think it's so interesting how that works. And yeah, like I think that going back to what you said in regards to even in the spiritual communities, because we're talking about churches, and churches are very structured, and that's very easy for us to kind of pinpoint. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a little easier for people to kind of pinpoint when they're feeling the need to leave,
Right.
because of the structure. Sometimes it can feel, I don't know for you, but for me it felt like sometimes, like when I wasn't aligned with it anymore, it felt like I was trapped. Like that was sort of like
Mm.
the feeling that I had when I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this doesn't feel, it just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
But then also I think more subtle places, like circles, like just spirit, like just open spiritual circles. I think it's important to also listen to yourself, because there might not be a lot of structure, but you also want to listen to how do you feel around those people, right? Like are you resonating with a collective, right? Energy, and then are you resonating with those who are part of the individually in the circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then learning how to differentiate medicine. Sometimes we get to receive medicine in those circles, in the sense of, when I say that, the medicine means like maybe don't have a good experience with one particular person, but the overall experience in the circle is great. So maybe the opportunity to maybe reflect upon that and be able to resolve maybe even karmic situations that maybe show up and arise, and then resolve that, and then you can continue to be part of the circle because it kind of resolves and goes back into homeostasis, right?
Mm.
But then there's also the discernment of like, okay, is this like a chronic thing? Because I think that a lot of people also struggle with that. It's like, oh, this is chronic. Oh, well, maybe I need to stay around because there's more medicine. No, love. Like that just means that you just need, that's not resonating with you anymore. It's time for you to start expanding your horizons into a different place. Because if something is chronically just not resolving, sometimes that's just the energy just letting you know, hey, it's not in alignment, right?
Mhm.
We got to leave. So I think and it's hard to figure that out sometimes,
It
right?
is. It is because I mean, because there could be times where you might be at a job, for example, and there is friction that comes up regularly. It's like I feel like whenever that's happening, there's two things to do. There's like assessing what that means. Or what is it that's being reflected from the inside of me off of this person? Everyone's a
Mm,
mirror. So like what's
yes.
happening? What is this connection trying to show me?
Yes.
And going through that, diving in, understanding what's happening there. And then the second thing to do is like, okay, now that I understand that, do I need to keep subjecting myself to this? Do you know
Mm,
what I mean? And
yes.
it's like it's having that discernment because there is always a lesson in whenever you have friction with another person or like discomfort or whatever involving another person. There's something in it for ourselves always, and it would be a little irresponsible of us to be like, oh, I feels bad, I'm out of here, without at least looking at it. Like,
Right.
why does it make me feel like that?
Mm,
If you want to go, fine, but like at least stop and be like, okay, what is it showing me? What's happening
mm,
in there? What experience can I liken this to from my past? What's in there that's like, what is that, this person and what they're saying and how they talk bouncing off inside of me? What memory, what belief is it like aggravating? And you find that, and that'll lead you to the answer. And what I usually find is that once you find that thing, the answer about what you should do, staying or leaving, for example, becomes pretty clear. That once you find that thing, because that's why it's there, and then it's like something releases, and you're like, I gotta go.
right.
you know, so,
Yeah, time to skedaddle. Bye, guys.
mhm,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love what you said there. That reflection and that self practicing that self reflection and I think that's something that it's an invitation, right? For those of you who are listening, for you, it's just in the light of how there's so much information on social media in how to handle certain situations and like there's always like, oh, positive vibes only and this and that, and then we got to be very careful on how we receive this information and understand that we have the responsibility to care for ourselves, care for our being, absolutely. And at the same time, we also have the responsibility to reparent ourselves and recognize where we need to grow and evolve. It is our responsibility. Nobody gets to tell us how to do that. That's the beauty of the freedom that we get as humans, is that we are the ones who are in charge of allowing that creative energy
mhm,
of evolution, because that's really what it is. You're allowing that creative energy of evolution to speak through you when you are practicing this self-reflective this self-reflections, when you're presented with, like you said, with the frictions, with the difficulties. Where is it, what is alive in me that I need to pay attention to? How can I practice that self-love? Because I think that's a form of self-love, is to go back and listen to those parts of you that are feeling uncomfortable,
right.
instead of pushing it away or just being reactive. And it's okay we have reaction, right? But when we have that reactivity and then we're not stopping at some point and reflecting on it, then we're basically hurting ourselves in the long run, because guess what's going to happen when you're not reflecting on that? Let's say you leave a situation, what's going to happen? You're going to go back into the same situation with another vessel, meaning another human being will show up and reflect the same thing to you so that you can take a look at it. And so, and that's happened to me personally until I couldn't,
Yep.
and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Let me figure out how to do this. And I need to listen to myself. I need to listen to this part of me. And so like it got to the point where it's like almost like rock bottom, right? Like I didn't have a choice but to look at it because it was just so painful that I just I couldn't do anything but to listen to that pain point and then reflect on it and then also reparent myself in some ways, right? And I think that, and also that doesn't happen overnight. It's such a process that and then that we get to even revisit in our path too. I know I've circled back to many pain points for myself as well. And I think that's also something to recognize too, is that you may revisit certain parts of yourself because there's like a deeper layer that needs to be held at that moment.
Hmm.
The depth of where we go into ourselves is the depth of how we can even be present with others too, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think that I personally feel that the more that's what lights me up about spiritual practice, or giving ourselves permission to explore um, in different avenues, in different ways, because it allows us as human beings to move from this very just fear-based space into a more understanding and compassionate place. The more we practice these things, the more we're able to show up for ourselves in a compassionate way, the more we're able to show up for others in a compassionate way. Um, and uh, and I think that's what human evolution is about,
Hmm.
personally. It's about how much are we able to reflect and to connect with all of our being um, individually and as a collective. The more we do that, I feel that we will see a very different version of humanity um, as we move forward. I think that, and I told you this before. I think that eventually we will become telepathic. Um, and but the only way that we can get there is by not being afraid of ourselves, um, not
Right.
practicing love and compassion for ourselves so that eventually we can extend that out to others. And then guess what? Everybody has an open heart, and then boom, we don't even need words anymore. It's just like everything is just known. We just know each other, like just by being in each other's presence, right? And so, um,
Right.
but yeah, I just feel so grateful that that we've given ourselves the opportunity to do this, right? I
Mm.
think that if it wasn't because you gave yourself the permission to read that book and then go and find the classes and then go, practice, and then find your own path, and then again find another class, and then be in all of these spaces, I don't think you would be able to do what you're doing right now for people, right?
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I was influenced by how other people do it, then I would be muting the way that I do it. And, I think the best thing that you can do for people is to do things in your own way, because that is your specific medicine. That is your specific gift to the world. And there's people that need you the way you do it.
Mm.
And if we deviate from that, then we are disservicing the people around us and really the world, because it all kind of emanates outwards. I think that is like the highest. I don't know, it's the most potent way that you can help. the world? Is it when you just are entirely, wholeheartedly, as much as you can, being yourself and living your truth, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like?
And I think that's so beautiful. You're saying that, I just thought about something too. When I first start, because I tend to go towards structure, right? Because even with SRT, right? Like SRT, it has a lot of structure, right? Like there's a lot of process that you have to follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but for me personally, then within that structure, I am
Mm-hmm.
so playful in it. And I've given
Mm-hmm.
myself permission to do, and also it's interesting because the messages that come through for me are so just, it's just like there's this openness, right, that I can connect to when I'm in that structure. And I think when the structure is aligned with you,
Mm-hmm.
and it also allows that, I think a good structure is a place where you are allowed to play and
Mm-hmm.
to evolve in it. And so the structure doesn't constrain you, it kind of evolves with you,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the reason why also even with your mediumship circles, it's such a, because you do have a structure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not it doesn't restrain people. It's just sort of like it adapts to people. But there's still that structure, which is so beautiful, that it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel like you can just explore and expand. And so I think that's what I believe would be probably the best, like the best of both worlds, right? Like, maybe allowing yourself to be in a structure, but does it allow you to grow? Does it allow you to explore? Does it allow you to question? Does it
Right.
allow you to play? I think that balance, right, between both is like the sweet spot for for us in general. I mean, and I speak for myself, right? Like it could be different for somebody else, right? Listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're like, no, I just need like super strict structure, right? And it's like, and then that's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet for me personally, I feel like that's been the secret sauce. Let's say it's like having that opportunity to create that sacred space and that ritual, that sacred space, and at the same time play with it and bring different elements as I move into it, and give myself permission to even shift it around and change it when it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I kind of feel like it might also depend on what it is that you're trying to achieve. So if there are people who want to be as neat and tidy and I want to be just like this person, I want to read this, then okay, like go for a very structured approach. If your goal is to be the most uh, concise, precise, just exact and structured medium, for example, then it makes sense for you to do a mediumship class that is very structured.
Mm.
If your goal is to kind of go as far as you can in any one direction and kind of dive as deeply as you possibly can, explore as much as you can before you leave the earth, and kind of expand and gain different ways of feeling and thinking and without constraint, then a structured approach isn't going to work for you. And I feel like I'm one that falls into that, that framework. You talk about people eventually becoming telepathic, and or maybe returning to be telepathic. I don't feel like we get there, or rather get back there, through any one tightly packed medium. Like in my opinion, you have to just open up and
Yes.
allow it just to just happen, and just to explore and discover. You go in one direction, you're like, oh, what's over there? Then you go like, and you're like, I didn't even know there's another pathway down here. So I'm walk down here. When you allow yourself to just keep going and pushing it and pushing it, I feel like that's how you get to those unknown places, doing things that you never even thought that you can do. If your goal is to do things that you don't even know you can do yet,
Mm.
then you can't find that in simply structure. You can use a structure to get there, but there's going to come a point inevitably where you have to break out of that and go in a different direction that feels maybe scary or uneasy or unknown, but you're gonna have to do it because you're not gonna find the answers to the questions that haven't been asked yet if you are just running around in that same box in that same circle. It just depends on what you want. Some people are like, I don't want to talk to spirits. I just want to just look at this thing and be able to see it really well. It's like, all right, then don't do mediumship and stay with it. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends on what you want. Like, I've met people who are like, I do not feel comfortable doing mediumship. And like, I get that, I definitely, you have to do what you feel comfortable with and what feels safe. And maybe one day that might change. Maybe it'll never change, and I think that's fine. We need all types of people. Now, we need people that don't do anything spiritual, quote unquote. We need all types of people. So,
I think it's beautiful you're saying that because I feel that I feel that that's really the future, and I think that's the reason why I resonate so much with your style of work. It's because I feel it's just like you're mentioning like you know in order for us to allow that future to be alive for us is to be open, and I think that's the whole premise of this podcast, right?
mm,
Is it's that invitation for people to see that there is a path, even if you're not ready right now to get out of a structure because that's what you need right now. And I respect that. And that's a sacred path for you. And that's beautiful. That's what you need right now. And that's okay. And at the same time, if you feel like, because that's another thing, if you feel like you're outgrowing that, then give yourself permission to step out of that
mm,
and be connected with whatever it is that you're meant to receive, which you might not know. You might just need to just open up and receive, right? and
mm,
so and so I think that that invitation, I feel personally that is the future. I feel personally that that in order for us to exist in that future of openness, we need to be spiritually responsible and mature to be able to hold space for ourselves and for others, because that it takes a level of maturity for you to be able to not question or judge another person's path
mm,
and try to shift their path to what you think should be, right? I think that that's another thing. Is like, being able to be soft in our approach on how we receive others and how we witness others, so that we give them that safe space to create in the way that they're meant to create, right? And so I think that's my final thought with this. We're kind of already by at the top of the hour here,
mm.
and I kind of wanted to do sort of like a more of a closing statement here. But I think that it's interesting, right? We're basically talking about structure, like structure spirituality versus not structure spirituality, and I think that's going to be the name of this episode. It's beautiful, right? And I think it's so great that we're having this conversation here, like at the beginning of the podcast, because we got to have this conversation first, right? Like I feel like that's that it makes sense that we're naturally having this conversation first because it's sort of like where we are existing, like where is it that we like what's your starting point, right?
Right.
Where is it that you are starting at? And
Hmm.
then you kind of have to like give yourself permission to be in both. And I think what I've learned today talking to you is that it's sort of like a mixed bag. And it's okay to be there, like, because right now, like, right now as a human race, where we are in an exploration
Mm,
a level of consciousness, and that exploration is going to look very different for everybody.
yeah.
And I think that when we give ourselves permission to understand that, then we're able to extend again that compassion, like I mentioned, to others. But do you have any closing thoughts in regards to what we've talked today?
Hmm. Maybe just always take everything in and run it through your own filter, even what we're saying right now. I always, it needs to go through your own filters. Take nothing that anybody says for complete truth, because our own truth is going to be variant. You know, our own understanding of truth and reality is not static and differs between person to person. So even everything that we're saying, listen to it, hear it, process it, and throw it out if it doesn't resonate. You know,
Mm.
I feel like that's important to distinguish. And I don't claim to be right all the time or know everything. And I think it's important to kind of go through life like that. One thing that my dad gave me is he always taught me to always question things, always like look at it, never take anything for just pure face value. And he'd talk about and kind of brag about times in school where he'd argue with the teachers and all that. But what I took from that was that like you should always be looking, whether or not you're having an actual argument or not, but like in your mind, like, does that resonate with me? Does that feel right to me? Is that true? Is there another way to do that? Is this the only way? Or can I come to the same answer walking on a different path? Is that answer even the answer for me? You know, like it's
Yeah, I
important to
love
do
that.
that. So that's, I think, you know, in the spirit of structure versus non-structure, I think it's important to say that too.
Yeah, I love that so much. And yeah, that's so perfect. Such a perfect way to end this conversation. I think that definitely giving ourselves permission to just sit with that and let it land in our bodies, in our being, in our mind, in our soul. How does this resonate with me? Where does it land for me? How does it make me feel? Is it lighting me up? Is it making me feel uncomfortable? Is it neutral? Is it flat? Whatever, right?
Mm,
And just being in that space and just allowing to witness that, I think is the most important aspect of the journey. Is again that self-awareness, right? Going back to self-awareness is the key of your own personal and unique success in your journey, right? Because
right.
success is going to look very unique to you specifically. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, Maurice, I am so grateful. I hope that you come back to the podcast because
Yeah.
we definitely need to talk about more things. Um, and
Mhm.
um, and I kind of wanted to also just do a little plug. We do run a mediumship circle every month. And I will be leaving information on the show notes so that you can sign up for our email list, and then you can participate in that, and you can receive some of that beautiful medicine that Maurice shares. Oh my goodness, it's just so, so good, so divine. And really, there's no words. So you just have to experience it yourself. I love it when every time we've been in a circle and there's somebody coming in for the first time, and then they get so giddy and excited because they connected, and they can see that they have that ability to do so. It's just so amazing to me I can imagine it's probably amazing for you to witness. I'm pretty sure it's very satisfying.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I just kind of wanted to just thank you again for being here, and yeah, just namaste, dear brother. Thank you so much for all of you, and yeah, I'll see you around.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for spending this time with me in the Mystic Playground. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to follow, rate, and share with someone that loves to explore the mystical. Until next time, stay curious and keep playing in the magic.